welcome to the video. Today we're talking about the iQoo Neo 6, and this is an interesting little phone. Basically, they're trying to pack in a whole bunch of value and a whole bunch of features at a really affordable price. And quite honestly, depending on what you like to do with your smartphone, I think there's a lot to like about this particular phone. So let's dive in and talk about it. Now, there is a really fun appeal whenever it comes to mid-range phones, because given the name mid-range, you would expect nothing on this phone to be of flagship level quality. But the cool part about mid-range phones is, as the space has started to become more competitive, manufacturers have been focusing on adding certain touches of appeal to the mid-range phones that they make. So in some cases, you might see a mid-range phone that tries to deliver really good camera quality at a really good price, and then every other aspect of the phone is budgeted to fit a great camera experience. Or maybe you'll see a mid-range phone that tries to give you awesome performance and everything else is built around the awesome performance factor. In the case of the Neo 6, this phone was built to deliver a really solid mobile gaming experience, hence the super dope Cyber Rage colorway that we have here. And everything else around the phone was built around a good gaming experience. So let's talk about some of the highlights of this phone. I feel like on some mid-range phones, the displays can really be a hit or miss type of category, but with the Neo 6, I was actually not only surprised by the quality of the display, but I actually find it really, really nice. Like it's not just acceptable for a mid-range phone, it's just a really good quality display in general. So we're looking at 6.62 inches, 1080p AMOLED, 120 Hz refresh rate, and it's HDR10 Plus certified. And there's also an optical fingerprint sensor, albeit the fingerprint sensor is a little bit lower than I would have liked it to be. It reminds me of, if I'm thinking correctly, the OnePlus 9 series? Was it the OnePlus 9 series where they took the fingerprint sensor really low? I think it is. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But all in all, from a display perspective, I mean, anything from watching a YouTube video to browsing the web to what I was using the phone a lot for, which was mobile gaming, it's an absolute treat on this device. And max brightness levels, 1300 nits. So all in all, it gets pretty bright. I like the vibrance and the saturation and, you know, the color punchiness of the display. It is not bad from a spec perspective at all for a 1080p panel. I was actually more than happy with the performance levels of this phone as well. Now, obviously, again, there's no flagship specs here, but internally, we're looking at a Snapdragon 870 5G platform, which actually is decent. It's an octa-core chip, 7nm processor, so it's pretty impressive on that front. Not flagship level, not a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, but still perfectly acceptable for what iQoo is trying to execute with this particular smartphone. We're also looking at 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage for my particular model. And I do believe that the entry level starts at 8 gigs and 128 gigs of storage, but for a mid-range phone like this, to start at 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, that's the same RAM and storage configuration that my much more expensive OnePlus 10 Pro started at. So I still think that's something really cool to see. And another thing I really like is FunTouch OS 12 built on top of Android 12. So the software experience on this phone. Not that it's anything super groundbreaking. It's actually really minimal in its execution, and I like that a lot. But there are a lot of customization features built into the software here. Like, you can go in and change animations for how the fingerprint icon looks on the screen, how the fingerprint animation looks, charging animations, plugging a USB animation in, display on, display off, lock screen on, lock screen off, transitioning from one home screen to another home screen. All sorts of different types of animations can be changed on this phone. And there are also some enhancements for gaming as well. So there's a dedicated gaming space. There are a whole bunch of different dedicated gaming features that are intended to help give you a better experience. And I also noticed it's called Monster Performance Mode on the phone, where essentially it kind of overclocks the CPU and the GPU in order to prioritize the best gaming experience. There's quite a bit going on this phone from a software perspective, but I kind of dig it because it's minimal, but at the same time feature-packed. And as far as performance goes, I've been playing Dokkan, like Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle a lot on this phone, Asphalt 9, which is like 3D car racing, And some of those games I've been playing for multiple hours on end, and I never had any issues with frame rate dropping. I never had any issues with performance. And also, there's a really nice thermal management system built into this phone as well, so I never had any issues with the phone actually getting hot either. So a lot to like from that front. Another cool thing is that there were days that I found myself gaming for multiple hours on this phone. It's pretty wild to admit, but there was one day in particular that I started getting really heavy into Dokkan, and I think, not all at once, but I think over the course of one day, I literally spent like 8.5 hours playing Dokkan on the phone, and the battery never dropped below like 35%. So I literally had like 8.5 hours of screen on time playing Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, and I finished that day with like 35% charge left on the phone, which I think is actually pretty cool. From a battery capacity perspective, 4,700 milliamp hours, which is nice. I think 5,000 is kind of, where you get to a point where you're like, that is a really dope battery size to have on an Android smartphone. But 4,700 is still really close, so it's a nice battery size. I like it. And I mean, it's paired to Snapdragon 870, not the most power hungry chip, and also a 1080p display, so it's not pushing a lot of pixels. So you're going to get some battery saving from that front as well. Cool part is when you do need to top off, you have 80-watt wire charging. Now, I wasn't able to use the charger that's in the box because it's for European outlets and we're here in the States. But I do have some Samsung-based fast chargers, like 45-watt chargers, 50-watt chargers. I tried those out on this phone, and it tops off ridiculously fast. Now, if you are able to use the built-in charger, iQoo is quoting 50% charge in like 12 minutes, which is absolutely ridiculous. But the battery lasts a long time, and when you do need to top up, it's capable of charging at a max of 80 watts, which is ridiculous for a phone of this price range. The phone over to take a look at the camera system. The camera system is okay. And I think, I'm okay with something like that as well because I had the right expectations going into this smartphone. So this is a phone built for good performance and good gaming. And it looks really nice too, in my opinion, especially in this color. So I think camera was not necessarily the main object of concern here. So let's just run through the lenses really quick. You're obviously going to see some pictures and stuff like that, but 64 megapixel wide angle, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro. And from a picture perspective, it's not going to be anything that's going to blow you away. They are decent, they're okay, they're usable. I actually don't mind the level of detail that's typically reproduced in the pictures. I think the phone kind of struggles with dynamic range from time to time, and quite honestly, I feel like the colors could be a little bit better, but these are just point and shoot photos. From a photo quality perspective, it's okay, and the phone is capable of recording in 4K video at up to 60 frames per second if you really need it to, but at the end of the day, it was a phone built for gaming and performance first. The cameras are there and they're usable, but it's not going to be the most impressive thing you've ever seen. The real challenge of this particular smartphone is whether or not it's available in your country or region. So we're based here in the United States, and iQoo does not actually ship here to the US. They are, a family company of Vevo, and they're based in India. So whenever we check their website, it doesn't ship here to the US. Now, here's the interesting part about the overall price of the smartphone, though. And here's what we found whenever we started looking more on the internet. So in India, this phone is roughly, it's like what, 33,999 rupees? That's how much, right? Yeah, 33,999 rupees, which whenever you convert that to US dollars, it's roughly like 420. Nice. But anyways, when we checked on eBay, there are sellers that will ship this phone to the United States, but those are going for like the low 500s, or like 505 to like the mid 500s, like 550-ish, depending on which color and which storage configuration and RAM option you want. Even at those prices, 400 something, 500 something, I think this is a great buy for those prices. Like, if I were to tell you I spent $400 on this phone or I spent $500 on this phone, use it for as long as I have, I would not be disappointed with the price that I paid. And I think that's just, again, another testament to how competitive and how really good mid-range smartphones are getting. If you're the type of person that prioritizes more performance, more fun things like gaming on your phone, more so than, let's say, having an awesome camera experience, then I do think this is a great smartphone. So if you enjoyed the review, like always, hit the like and subscribe button down below if you're new. If you're already subscribed, you already know the deal. You're amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.